In my early days as an advertiser, running commercials on TV was guesswork. I knew TV was powerful, but it was impossible to see which ads truly worked. So I teamed up with the best data scientists to create a better way to buy and measure TV ads. Tatari was born. Today, hundreds of brands and agencies use Tatari, and we help them optimize with metrics that actually grow the business. Learn more at tatari.tv.
Hello and welcome. I am your host, Kimberly Lovey. I am a wife, a mother of two. I'm a businesswoman, a brand builder, blogger, and podcaster. I'm here to connect with women just like me who want to optimize their life while looking and feeling our best. Together, we will remove limiting beliefs and dream to become our highest and best version of ourselves. We will explore both mental and physical aspects of self-improvement while forming a community, a sisterhood. Before we dive in, please subscribe to my podcast and give me 5 stars. Hello and welcome back. I am so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope you're having a wonderful week, morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this. I hope you're doing well. Today, I really wanted to talk to you guys about something that was kind of organically just on my mind and my heart, and it's more around embracing a transformation. And I think in a world of COVID, it's a time when life as we know it has suddenly stopped and we've been forced into change, whether we like it or not. It's definitely been a test. It's been confusing and upsetting. And, that's why it's time to put on our big girl pants and stop fighting it and embrace the change. So I personally am in the middle of a transformation. It started with a close family member being very ill at the beginning of this COVID stuff. It was not a COVID situation, just kind of an odd set of timing. But basically it put me in this, just a totally different state of mind where I just kind of, coming out of that experience, like a life or death experience, I just said, forget it. Like, F it. I don't care. I'm going to go for it. I don't care what people think about me. Life's too short. And so I kind of went into this full throttle transformation. Initially, it started out with just a fitness routine that was serving me since I could no longer go to my boot camp and all of that, my normal routine. And that kind of led to this whole full-blown mental health transformation for me. And now it's an actual life path transformation. And I have to say, this sounds much sexier than it feels. On many days, I felt very defeated, lost, and challenged. I've had a lot of highs and a lot of lows over the last several months, and I would imagine you have too. And so I just want to talk through it and, just share maybe some of my experience and my feelings and see if it resonates and helps somebody that's listening to this. So I'm here today to check in and let you know that if you're struggling, you're not alone. And here are some tips to help you stop fighting change and instead embrace it. So if your mental health is poor, we need to take control. So we need to find at least one way to incorporate me time, especially if you are a wife and a mother. You are tasked with running an entire household, not just managing yourself. And listen, if it's just you, sometimes just managing yourself is overwhelming and can be very, very challenging. And so if you are struggling, I would say one thing that I really encourage you to do is find some me time. And that can be in the form of a 5-minute gratitude exercise or an extra few minutes in the morning to have coffee by yourself. Maybe you need some journaling time, or maybe you need to have some time carved out to do yoga or go on a walk, a jog, some kind of stretching, something for yourself, because I have to say, like, especially in the morning, that morning routine is just everything. It's like your personal sacred time. And I was listening to Jay Shetty. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he is a former monk. And he's kind of turned self-helpy or whatever. And so he described mornings as kind of like the time to put on his armor for the day. And then, the rest of the day is dedicated to going out and executing and, just battling the battles that come up all day long, all week long. But really carving out a time for yourself and a physical space for yourself, which he actually highlighted as well. And he talked about this notion of space and time hold energy. And I thought that was so interesting. And it kind of just reinforces what I've been starting to do on my own that I want you guys to do, which is really setting up a schedule for yourself. And this idea about time, he says time has memory and a space. He said he used to live in a 500 square foot apartment with his wife, and he just carved out a little corner where it was like his space to journal and meditate. And it was just kind of his happy place. And this notion of not confusing spaces. So not bringing, for example, not bringing work into your bed, for example, which I know for many of us that are working from home, that can be very easy to do. But again, you don't need to have some huge sprawling house to be able to do this. I just thought it was so interesting to really evaluate your physical space and just carve out like certain activities should be conducted in certain spaces. And so that's just something I just really thought more about. I encourage you to check out his podcast and hear him really dive into that deeply. And then this idea of time has memory, I thought was also very interesting. I mean, for me, it lends itself to the importance of routine. I mean, even babies, they kind of know. So when we had our baby, our night nurse, stressed the importance of a nighttime routine. And I was really surprised by that when you have a newborn because, what do they really know? And I was just kind of relaying this to my sister who has a 4-month-old. And I said, this idea of a nighttime routine is really important, not only for adults, but even for young babies, because it's what you're doing is you're signaling to them and to yourself, if you're thinking of yourself here, you're signaling to yourself that it is time to wind down. And so drawing a bath, even for a very young baby, having a quick bath time every night, and then getting them into their jammies and getting them diapered and fed, even if they're too young to have, books read to them, it's still really important. It's this idea of time has memory and, having these routines in place set you up for success. So I'm a huge, huge believer of, especially now when there's not a lot of structure going on. Maybe aside from your kids doing, your Zoom calls, if you have that going on, then that's dictating your schedule. But regardless, maybe you have no schedule and maybe you do have a schedule, but regardless, setting up time for yourself in the morning and then at night, I think is just super, super, super critical for your own mental health. And I think you should go hard during the day and then kind of relax and celebrate your victories at night in your own little way. It can be through a bath, it can be reading a book, it can be cuddling with your family. Maybe some of you love cooking. Whatever your outlet is, make time for yourself. And so I would also say if you start to feel anxious, so I know I've been struggling with anxiety, and I'm sure many of you have been as well. So when I start to feel anxious, I start to recognize that I'm getting anxious, and I say positive things to myself like, I know, like, it's okay. I'm starting to feel anxious. This is all new. It's overwhelming. It's normal to feel this way. And same if I'm like getting down, I definitely don't push aside the feelings. Like, I think we have to learn to feel the feelings so that you don't get into unhealthy habits like band-aiding your feelings through drugs or alcohol or throwing yourself into work or any of these different, variations of extreme behavior. I think this idea of really letting yourself feel what you feel is super, super important. I don't believe in pushing aside feelings. I don't believe in like, I don't know, making you feel like your feelings aren't valid. Like, I think it's super important to, when you have feelings, you need to feel the feelings and feel them and experience them. If you're depressed, you're in despair, you're anxious, like feel all of those feelings and validate yourself that it's normal. This is a stressful time. And then, if you're starting to feel like hearing negative things in your head, especially as you're reaching for a new transformation, this is where it requires a lot of strength. And so I think a lot of people right now are in transformations of all kinds, whether they're looking to move out of their city. I know there's a ton of people moving right now. That is a huge transformation. Maybe they're evaluating if they should be moving. There's people that are looking for jobs or looking to change their jobs. People are moving schools or they're taking their school online. Like there's just a ton of transition and transformation. Again, some of it is kind of, up to us and some of it is forced. But what I'm saying is let's stop fighting it. And so what I'd like to see is for people to start embracing the change as best as they can. And this is where it really matters to be as strong as you possibly can. So I think, again, it's easier said than done. When you're undergoing these sometimes stressful and overwhelming transformations, I think it's important to recognize the feelings, acknowledge that they're valid feelings. But here's where you have to really put on your big girl pants. You really need to put an end, like a limit, I should say, a limit around it. So, for example, say that you're applying to a new job, okay? Say that you applied, you went through all the different interviews, and you didn't get it. Well, obviously, you're going to feel disappointed, right? Like you went for that job for a reason. And especially if you got to say final rounds of interviews, you're disappointed. You could be crushed. And so I would say definitely feel the feelings, go through the disappointment, talk about how that job would have been great and how you're really disappointed you didn't get a chance to do the job and how great it would have been, and do all of the things and kind of feel bad for yourself. But then the next day, you need to put an end to it and turn the page. And here's the reason. This is the really critical part. If you continue to wallow, which is so natural and so easy to do, but if you let the wallowing continue on day in and day out, what happens is you're actually taking away time from getting to that next step. So if you're sitting here on day 2 talking still about the job that you're disappointed about to the point where you don't get anything accomplished that day, then you just wasted a day wallowing and there was no progress made, just more wallowing and complaining and feeling bad for ourselves. Again, very natural, very easy to do. But instead, what I'd like for you to do is recognize that, okay, I'm wallowing. I need to just take a deep breath, pick myself up, and now I'm going to start applying to other jobs. There's plenty of other jobs out there, and the more time I waste thinking about this other job I did not get is time taken away from my future job that I can be getting. And may I remind you, if you are not reaching for that next job, it's competitive. Somebody else is. And this goes for anything. I'm just using the job thing as like a clear, simple example. But the point is that the more time you spend wallowing in something that you can't change and it's done, the more time you're wasting. You're literally just sitting there wasting your time and your energy. You are better served to reach, like get back up, brush yourself off, and then reach again. And so much of who we really are to our core comes down to how many times we can pick ourselves up and brush ourselves off and keep on going. And, I think I read a quote, something about the meme said something about life isn't about, I forget exactly what it was, but something about, it's about how you can bounce, how well you can bounce or something. And the idea is that you should be able to bounce back up. And so I just think this idea of really standing up again after you've been depressed or defeated or just anxious, whatever the case may be, maybe you're in the middle of some big relationship change, there's just a lot of different various situations that you guys are experiencing right now. And I have my version of my own transformations, but I just think really fighting every day to be your best is so important. And the other thing is that when those negative thoughts start creeping in, you need to shut them up. And how do you do that? Well, I personally will put on a positive podcast. I will read a positive book, something that will quickly change my mindset, to just shut down the negative cycle and the negative thought process. So if you are reaching for this new goal and it starts to feel like self-doubt starts creeping in, something about that's important to realize that you should be very well aware of is this idea of we have this preset temperature that it all goes into your subconscious mind and all of this kind of your foundational, like who you are at the core. But let's just say that you are programmed to be at 72 degrees. Well, anytime that you start to fall below that, like you're falling short at work or you're falling short in some way or another, you will naturally kick on that gear so that you heat back up to 72 degrees. Now, if you're on fire and you're doing awesome, you might actually start to self-sabotage. So if you start getting up to 80 degrees, you might find ways, and this is completely subconsciously, you might actually start finding ways to sabotage your progress. And so I think just this awareness and realizing that you actually need to be focusing on reprogramming your temperature, and working through ways to do that through self-help. And so one thing I've done is created an exceptional life plan, and basically playing that over and over to myself. And so there's just so many ways that you can kind of get yourself to level up. And if you find yourself self-sabotaging and you're in the middle of this transformation and you're starting to feel negative and you want to just quit, like remind yourself what is happening, that no, like I am leveling up right now. I am increasing my comfortable temperature and I'm going to keep going. And another way that I've been able to kind of level up a little bit is, so I know that a lot of people do vision boards. Like vision boards are, you go and you go to the grocery store, you go to CVS and you buy a board and you cut out different visions, images of visions that you'd like to manifest. Well, I ended up just building a vision wall. And the reason why I did that was I just took like 8x10 pieces of paper and wrote my major goals. And the reason is because I started to kind of lose track of or maybe lose focus of, I'd say like my top 3 goals that I have for myself this year. And so I'm like, okay, I'm putting it in my office. I've set it up. I have 3 major goals, and this way I cannot lose sight of them. And then underneath each of those giant pieces of paper, I have little Post-it notes that are taped underneath, which are the specific action items that I will take to achieve the big goal. And so that way my brain has more like bite-sized pieces to act on. They say that complexity is the enemy of execution. And so with that, breaking these giant goals into bite-sized pieces really enables your brain to act on them and take action. And maybe that is another really important thing to say, which is, so I let myself have a day off a couple weeks back, and I just drove myself nuts, and I ended up being so stressed out and so exhausted. So funny enough, I spoke to a colleague of mine, and she said when she starts to feel anxious, what she does is she takes action. And I said, that is so interesting, because I realized that about myself a couple weeks ago, that the best thing when I have anxiety about something, the best thing is to stop ruminating on it, thinking about over and over and over. The better thing for me is just to start taking action on something that's making me anxious. And in my case, I'm standing up a brand. So it can be just writing a simple blog, or tweaking my website, sending off emails, whatever the case may be for your specific situation. I would say a huge way to alleviate stress and anxiety is by just taking action, and it doesn't matter how big or how small. Just do something so that you feel like you're making progress. And every day you have to wake up and keep going and just keep making baby steps every single day towards whatever it is that you're working on. Again, whether it's a new job or maybe you're moving, a new school, you know, just keep going and don't let the negative vibes from the day before carry on. You have to let yourself reset and then use your morning time to really refocus, infuse positivity into your thought process so that you can really approach the day as like a whole person and give it your best and, just show up for everybody around you in a way that you want to show up. And I think if you're really, really struggling, maybe the last thing to think about is if you're struggling and you just don't have the drive to do something positive for yourself, think about the role you play in other people's lives around you. So, for example, if you are a mother, remember, you have to make yourself aware, like, my kids are looking at me. I'm the mom. Like, they're looking at me like mommy. So how do I want to show up as mommy for them? Do they want to see this depressed, stressed out woman, or do they want to see someone that is, taking action, smiling, positive, and strong? Like, how do you want to show up for the people in your life? And how can you add more positivity to those around you? And I think that if you're really feeling down, think about giving to someone else because it takes you outside of yourself. The whole depressed and down kind of sentiment is very selfish. It's all about you. So probably one of the best things you can do is do something nice for somebody else, and it will immediately make you feel better. It might not resolve the issue, but it will at least lift your spirits a little bit. So, if you're going through a transformation or just like a weird period of time, think of all the different resources out there. I am loving Rachel Hollis right now. She's fantastic. She has a podcast, the Rise podcast. She also has conferences. But think of adding people to your circle that are going to add more positivity or more support. So maybe you need to join a community Facebook group. For example, I had to join like a entrepreneurship type Facebook group to get the support I was lacking, and I was starting to feel really isolated, and it's just made a world of difference. So think about how you can add more positivity and get the support that you really need if you're struggling in one of these areas. And there's just so many resources out there. Podcasts are free. You can do downloadable books on Amazon. Facebook groups are awesome. And just go reach and find those people that are going to really pep up your step. So with that, I hope that this has been something that just really, gives you that extra support that you are looking for. And again, just remember, if you are going through this change or a transformative time and you're struggling, like, you're not alone. Please reach out to me if you want to have a conversation. I'm at Kimberly Levy on Instagram and on Facebook. So please definitely reach out to me and let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear what your transformation journey is all about. Maybe it's a health journey. Let me know. I'm super excited to hear from you guys. I want to continue to get inspired from my community and from each of you. So, I definitely look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you take this with you and it adds some pep to your step and a little bit more support that perhaps you were just kind of lacking. So with that, have an excellent rest of your day.